In this 25th anniversary year of September 11th, the Tunnel to Towers Foundation continues to honor America's heroes. Heroes like Fire Lieutenant Michael Wells, who was inspired by 9/11 to serve his community. After 14 dedicated years of service, he lost his battle with occupational cancer, leaving behind his wife, Katie, and their 3 children. Tunnel to Towers honored Lieutenant Wells by paying off the family's mortgage in recognition of his sacrifices. Donate $11 monthly and amplify your impact with a car or land donation. Go to T2T.org.
It's the Joe Concha Tunnel to Towers Foundation Sunday morning show. Now, here's Joe Concha.
Welcome, everybody, on this dreary Sunday. We had like 88-degree high on Wednesday and Thursday. Now it's like 50, cold, rainy, miserable. So thanks for joining us today. Here we are on April 19th. Let's get you up to date, the latest with Iran. There appears to be an ongoing fight between so-called relative moderates within the country and the crazies. All right, the crazies are probably the IRGC, that's the Republican Guard, right? That's the military, who basically reversed course on a deal that was done in principle between the Iranian foreign minister, who appears to be more of the moderate, and the crazies, who are the IRGC. IRGC then reversed course and reclosed the Strait of Hormuz, started firing on some ships trying to go through there. This is something that the president is not happy about. And Trump, quote, "If the deal isn't done, the deal that we made, then I'm going to take out their bridges and their power plants. If they don't sign this thing, the whole country is going to get blown up. We're preparing to hit them harder than any country has ever been hit before, because you cannot let them have a nuclear weapon." Trump went on to say that Iran has agreed to much of the deal already. Again, the question is, who is in control over there? Is it the foreign minister and his team, or the IRGC, which obviously isn't going down without a fight that they will lose? So that's where we are at this point. Meanwhile, NATO, absolutely worthless in the eyes of President Trump. Here he is at Turning Point USA just yesterday, cut number 2, and does not hold back. Cut 2, go.
That's what they had to do. And if NATO teaches us any one thing, and I hope you all watched, because they weren't there for us, if it teaches us any one thing, we have to rely on ourselves. We can't rely on outside countries and outside sources. So do not listen to the craven and cowardly voices who tell you America needs to think small or to shrink from our duties or potential.
I'm with the president on this one. I think NATO's worthless. I think it was originally designed to make sure that we could stop any Russian aggression into Europe. Russia has shown that they could barely get into Ukraine. So I don't think they're the threat that they are. And if they were to try something, then so be it, which I don't think they will. Again, they're not marching into Poland when they could barely march into Ukraine. So NATO had a test here, especially Spain, especially France, especially Britain. And when we asked for their help, they were worthless. Didn't do a thing. So that's where we are. I don't know why we should continue to have their back if they don't have our back. It's that simple. So, meanwhile, it could be worse, of course. Kamala Harris could have been the 47th president. She won a couple more swing states. She didn't win any, actually 0 for 7. But nevertheless, she's now probably running for president, which, again, is the best news that J.D. Vance or Marco Rubio could possibly ask for, because she's a profoundly horrible candidate. Remember, she ran for president in 2020, and the reason why we don't remember that very much is because she didn't even get to 2020. Didn't even get to Iowa. She was running 5th in her home state of California when she dropped out in polling. And then when she actually was the nominee, she didn't earn one vote from the public. She was installed because Joe Biden picked her to be a vice president because of her color and because of her gender. That's it. Remember, he said he was going to do that, and then he had 3 choices. Stacey Abrams, 2-time loser in Georgia, Karen Bass, who's currently at 25% approval as Los Angeles mayor right now, which is really hard to do in California, a blue state like that, to be at 25% approval. And then Kamala. So because Kamala was, I guess, the most attractive of the three, she got the job and then eventually became the nominee because Joe Biden's brain turned applesauce at that debate at Georgia Tech in June of 2024. So all of that said, here is Kamala now. She's kind of campaigning. She's in North Carolina for whatever reason, a state that she lost pretty easily, talking about the Iran war. And boy, would things be different if this gal were in the Oval Office. Cut number 9, go.
He entered a war, got pulled into it by Bibi Netanyahu. Let's be clear about that.
Not true at all.
Entered a war that the American people do not want, putting at risk American service members.
Oh, okay. So Kamala, in other words, if she were president, wouldn't have done a thing. Because she didn't do a thing during the auto pen administration. And Iran continued its pursuit of nuclear weapons and was getting very, very close as a result. Remember, this is how Kamala talked tough when she was vice president, when she was asked, hey, Iran's still pursuing nuclear weapons, ballistic missiles, still firing at U.S. ships through its proxies, like the Houthis. What is your message to them? This is cut number 10. And, yeah, it was really, really effective. Cut 10, go.
What's the message to Iran?
Don't.
As President Biden said, just don't.
Exactly. One word. Pretty straightforward.
And Iran's like, yeah, okay. And they just went right through that red light, right? So, again, absolute joke. And she could win the nomination, people. If you're, let's put it this way, South Carolina is the first primary, and that has a very high black population. I don't see Gavin Newsom marching in there and winning. If Kamala's on the ticket, she probably wins that state, and then who knows where it goes from there. But yeah, when your competition's Gavin Newsom, possibly AOC, Buttigieg, Fred Flintstone out in Illinois, J.B. Pritzker, Josh Shapiro, I could see being a good candidate, to be honest. Is that like 50% approval in Pennsylvania? Not bad. Used to be well above 60. So he is going down. But again, the anti-Semitic wing of this party ain't going to have a Jewish guy at the top of the Democratic ticket. And that anti-Semitic wing is growing. Oh, Andy Beshear may run for president as well. He is the Democratic governor of the red state of Kentucky. But this guy is profoundly boring, and there is a performance aspect to all of this. Look at our last couple of presidents, right? Outside of Biden, of course. That was a different kind of election. But here's Beshear talking about why Trump wants to use nukes. And then my colleague Greg Gutfeld reacts on the other side of this. This is cut number 22. Go.
What concerns me is a comment that he made to his unauthorized biographer once, that he wanted to be the most famous person in the world. I worry, in his mind, he also wants to be one of the most famous people in history, and good or bad does not seem to impact him in trying to reach that. So my concern was he thought maybe one way to get there would be to be the president that actually dropped a nuclear bomb.
You know, you're not supposed to say retarded, but that is retarded. That is might be the dumbest thing I've ever
heard. Yes, precisely. And it is. Like, oh yeah, Trump will just use a nuke so he could be famous, go down in history. What? Again, this person will probably run for president, and that's the type of crap that you're going to hear, except they're not going to be able to run against Trump probably this time around. But they'll just paint J.D. Vance with the same brush, or Marco Rubio, for that matter, who ends up being the Republican nominee. And again, I think it's J.D.'s if he wants it, but he may not want it because he has a fourth child on the way. He's only 41 years old. And maybe he'll say, you know what, Marco, you take this, and I'll think about this down the road. 25% chance of that happening. But if it were to happen, Marco Rubio would be one solid candidate. And the guy is unflappable. He just does not make mistakes. He is extremely competent. Every time he speaks, he's doing an outstanding job as Secretary of State. He's not the Marco Rubio of 2016 who was kind of nervous and kind of basically scripted, for lack of a better term. Like to drink water a lot. That's not Marco now. So that would be one hell of a ticket, though. J.D. Vance, Marco Rubio, or Marco Rubio and fill in the blank. Meanwhile, Don Lemon is somebody who also may run for president, which I said that with a straight face without laughing too hard. I mean, this guy, if he ran a funeral parlor, no one would die. I mean, that's how inept Don Lemon is, because remember, he got fired from CNN, which is a really hard thing to do, because as I pointed out before, Jeffrey Toobin, their legal analyst, literally was pleasuring himself on a Zoom call with females present and still didn't get fired from that network. I mean, if you could get away with that, and yet Lemon got fired from there. Now he does like a podcast from his mansion out on Long Island, and now he's doing this whole running for president thing because that gets him on TV. That gets him attention. And he probably will run just for that reason alone. But here is Don Lemon with Sherry somebody on one of the daytime talk shows talking about why he can be president if he really, really wants to. Cut number 8, go.
Well, you know what, Don? You're such a person that I could absolutely see running for president.
Yeah.
Like, not even joking.
Yes. Why not?
Yeah.
Why not?
Why not?
Look, I'm not saying that I'm going to do it, but why not? My parents taught me growing up that I could be anything that I wanted.
Absolutely.
And so if Donald Trump could be president, why can't I be president? So I might do it. Who knows?
The fact that that's getting applause, who are these people? Honestly. And by the way, what's Don Lemon's platform going to be? Does he still believe that white men are the biggest threat to the country, like he declared on CNN when he was an anchor there? Oh, by the way, if white men are the biggest threat to the country, why did Don marry a white guy? Just thinking out loud here. I think the best part is that Don also said that he actually won't govern. Instead, he's going to rely on some unelected advisors to run the country. Like Joe Biden did. And by the way, is Don eligible to run? And by that, I mean he's in his 60s now, okay? And he said once, and this is basically what got him fired, that no woman over 40 years old is in their prime anymore. They're past their prime. He said that about Nikki Haley when she was running for president. So therefore, if that's the rule, and Don's in his 60s, then he's past his prime, so he can't run for president. I'm just saying. So this is all for attention, my friends, and nothing more. And I guess he's getting it because I was dumb enough to just play that on this outstanding radio show. Meanwhile, you got to love Zohran Mamdani because, well, look, he's at 48% approval, which ain't good in New York when you consider that at this stage of his term, Eric Adams was at 61%, Bill de Blasio was at 64%. So Mamdani already well under par here, we'll put it that way, because none of these promises that he is offering to deliver are happening. He did one interview with CBS where he said, well, by the end of my term, we'll have universal health care for 2-year-olds. All 2-year-olds in the city. Oh, okay. What about the 3-year-olds, 4-year-olds, 5-year-olds, 1-year-olds? You said universal health care for all children. And now we're only narrowing it down to one age. And by the way, how are you paying for that again? He also said that, as far as freezing the rent, that's up to a board. An independent board decides that. So he promised something that has no control over. And then the free busing, he already says that buses are faster and less expensive. No, they're not. They're slower and they're more expensive. And then he says, that can only get paid for if Kathy Hochul gives me the money, which she says she isn't. So he made all these promises. And of course, now you're seeing that none of them are going to come true. And that's why he has to resort to analogies like this, like in cut number 15, where somehow Mario Kart makes its way into the conversation. Cut 15, go.
Or if you are a Mario Kart fan, government is Yoshi and philanthropy is the golden mushroom. That edge we need to beat Bowser on the Rainbow Road. To belabor this metaphor even further, Bowser is corporate greed in this scenario.
Oh, okay. I mean, look, my 10-year-old plays Mario Kart, and I played it with him sometimes, and I still can't follow along with that analogy. But, of course, the SEALs in the audience laugh. Meanwhile, President Trump weighed in on Mamdani, and apparently they talk on a fairly regular basis. I think the calls are going one way from Mamdani to Trump, because Mamdani probably will need a bailout from the federal government at one point because we have something like a $5.4 billion budget shortfall, and then he's proposing billions more in spending for all the things that I just described. But here is Trump on Mamdani, and, it's a good news, bad news scenario for the New York mayor. Cut number 19, go.
You look at New York. I mean, he's a nice guy. Calls me all the time, says hi. But his policies are no good. He's chasing people out and causing a lot of harm to everybody. I mean, everybody's taxes are going through the roof.
And that's the thing, right? Mamdani puts out that video in front of Ken Griffin's penthouse. I think it was on the Upper East Side or near Central Park West. It's either one or the other, right? They're kind of far apart. But the point is that it's a very, very expensive property. And Mamdani has the idea of, okay, I am going to tax anybody who has a second home in New York where the property is above $5 million. Ken Griffin, all right, will sell that property and buy another one where he won't be taxed on it the way Mamdani wants to. And we know this because Ken Griffin is the CEO of Citadel, and he moved that firm out of Chicago because of high taxes and high crime. And now Citadel's headquarters is in, ding, 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 Miami, Florida. So Mamdani's going to try to do this. And, you know, rich people tend to be smart, at least with their money. And they'll just say, all right, I don't have to live here anymore. And I'll go to Tennessee, Texas, or Florida and be very, very happy there without being taxed out the wazoo. Thank you very much. And all that tax revenue is going to go with them. And Mamdani's going to learn this in a big, big hurry. Anyway, this is Joe Concha. This is the Tunnel to Towers Foundation Sunday morning show. Back with so much more in just a moment.
It's the Joe Concha Tunnel to Towers Foundation Sunday morning show. Now, here's Joe Concha.
Welcome back, everybody. So I think it's safe to say that President Trump is the most transformative president of my lifetime. I'll even include Reagan in that. I was kind of young for Reagan, but just the things that we are seeing on so many levels, it truly is incredible. But he also probably is the funniest guy to ever occupy the Oval Office by a country mile. Here he is at Turning Point USA in Phoenix. And this is just hilarious. This is Trump talking about two genders. Cut three. Go.
And we made it the official policy of the United States of America that there are only two genders, male and female. That was easy. Could you imagine if I was up here 20 years ago or 15 years ago, probably 12 years ago, and I said there are only two genders, male and female? People would say, what the hell is he saying that for? Is he crazy? It's got to be the worst speech I've ever heard. Why is he saying that? Or why is he saying that we got men out of women's sports? Can you imagine saying that 15 years ago? 15 years ago, if you said, and we got men out of women's sports, the audience would say, what's wrong with that guy? It's the craziest thing I've ever heard.
He's right. I mean, it's such common sense stuff that there's actually even a debate on this, that it even happened for that matter, men playing against women in sports, men in women's locker rooms, insane stuff. Before we go to break, I just remember Trump talking about two genders once before. It was at the Al Smith dinner in 2024. I wrote about it in my book. He had the greatest line ever. He said, you know, Democrats keep telling me that men can have periods. And I didn't believe them until I met Tim Walz. The whole room just, I mean, this is Park Avenue in Manhattan, as deep blue as it gets. And he had the room cracking up and falling down. Anyway, we have to get to break. And Randy Levine, president of the first place New York Yankees, comes up next on the show. This is the Joe Concha Tunnel to Towers Foundation Sunday morning show. Randy Levine coming up next.
Pepsi Prebiotic Cola in original and cherry vanilla. That Pepsi taste you love with no artificial sweeteners and 3 grams of prebiotic fiber. Pepsi Prebiotic Cola. Unbelievably Pepsi.
It's the Joe Concha Tunnel to Towers Foundation Sunday morning show. Now, here's Joe Concha.
Okay, let's bring in our VIP guest. This is Randy Levine. He is the current president and longtime president of the New York Yankees Baseball Club, also a member of the board of directors of AC Milan. Randy, thanks so much for joining us. We appreciate it.
Always great to be with you, Joe.
Absolutely. So, you know, it's funny. I looked this up because I see that Forbes came out with a couple months ago, who are the most valuable franchises in baseball, and the New York Yankees come in north of $8.2 billion. And I thought to myself, all right, what did George Steinbrenner purchase the Yankees for when he bought them back in the early mid-'70s? And the number is remarkable. It was $8.8, not billion, million dollars. So we've gone from $8.8 million to $8.8 billion, well more than the Dodgers, the Cubs, the Giants. I get the 27 championships, the pinstripes, the lore as far as Ruth, DiMaggio, Mantle, Jackson, Jeter, Judge. But boy, I mean, that is just head and shoulders above everybody else. What is the secret turning $8.8 million into $8.2 billion in about 50 years?
Well, I think the answer is, George Steinbrenner had a vision for the Yankees that continuing the tradition of winning and being very, very special and unique. We've had the same uniform, the pinstripes, the interlocking NY at home, and the same road grays with the New York in front, forever. So, Yankee Stadium, it's still called Yankee Stadium. There's no naming rights involved. And there's a tradition here that he established that basically the team would all of the money that was made by the baseball team would be reinvested in players, reinvested in programs that assisted players, and that led to winning. And then from there, as times changed, he had the vision, and that's kind of when I came in about 26 years ago, and he realized the world was changing, and he had this great core asset, being the Yankees, and there was really no difference between sports and entertainment. The two were kind of like merging together, and the idea was, how do we take this asset, this core asset, and utilize it and monetize it, in effect, in ways that are complementary in order to go forward. So at the end of the day, we did that. We created the Yes Network, which is today the most expensive, as far as value is concerned, the most valuable regional sports network in the world. We created Legends Hospitality, which is today one of the leaders in hospitality and premium sales. We invested and brought a Major League Soccer team here, partnership with City Football Group, that being New York City Football Club. We've partnered with the Hard Rock Cafe, to create restaurants, New York NYY Steak. We invested in AC Milan, and so we have a lot of various businesses all surrounding the Yankees. We built a new stadium. The new stadium has assets in it that are state-of-the-art, that you can sell. Our attendance, because the team is always competitive, is very well. So at the end of the day, all of these things add up. You put inflation in there as well as things grow, and that's where we are. And it's all really goes back to his vision and his leadership and putting the right people around to execute it.
It seems, and we're talking to Randy Levine, the president of the New York Yankees, that George Steinbrenner, yes, was so many steps ahead of everybody else. The Yes Network, that came around 1999, and it was a partnership between the Yankees and the Nets. And it was just amazing that this groundbreaking idea that why should we have to put our brand, the most iconic brand in sports, on another network when we could just create our own and keep that revenue for ourselves. I think that certainly was a big turning point. And then obviously everything else that you just described as far as Hard Rock and Legends and the NYCFC soccer club and MLS, their stadium opens Willets Point, I believe, next year. That's very exciting stuff, because you watch them at Yankee Stadium and that's great, but to have a soccer only facility, and this thing is state of the art, to have a rival like the Rangers and the Devils and the Islanders have, or the Yankees and the Mets for that matter. That's really remarkable. So that's set to open Wills Point next year. Tell us more about that.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be a really beautiful state-of-the-art stadium. It's going to be really the only in New York City, only soccer stadium, be about 26,000 people, and it's going to be absolutely spectacular. And, it's right in that sports district in Queens where you have the tennis center and Citi Field, right by the World's Fair, so it's going to be very accessible. And, hopefully it opens at 27. That's right on time. And I think it's going to be really, really one of the venues that you're going to see, the U.S. national team play games in, and a whole bunch of other, really important international friendlies, as well as great NYCFC MLS action. It's a little too small for the for World Cup. Most of their 80,000 seat, football stadiums. But as we move forward, I think you're going to see this stadium be the place to be in the United States for go-to games.
Now, Randy Levine, you played a different football back in high school, Oceanside High School in Nassau County. Yeah. You played football like I played football. And now you're, obviously running the New York Yankees as its president. I mean, that's remarkable. Did you play baseball at all when you were younger, or this is just something that you fell into given your legal background?
No, and I played basketball in college. I played football, basketball, and and baseball when I was young. And I was one of those guys who just, I couldn't hit the curveball. It wasn't good enough in baseball. And as it went forward, through my career, I basically practiced a lot of labor relations and a lot of litigation when I was young. When I was a young lawyer, I met George Steinbrenner when I was young. Did some legal work for him. Became, a lawyer for the Yankees. And then after the baseball strike in '95, I was hired by the owners. Back then, it was called the Player Relations Committee. I was the director of it, and I resolved the strike in '96, where we reached a collective bargaining agreement that included interleague play and revenue sharing, and luxury taxes, and all of these things that have been the basis for labor agreements over the past 30 years in baseball. So that's how I really got into baseball, through my relationship with George representing the Yankees and negotiating the '96 collective bargaining agreement, which ended the strike in Major League Baseball.
Amazing. That was 31 years ago, that 95 strike, which, 94 strike, excuse me, which the Yankees were on a great trajectory at that point, as were the Montreal Expos. When you think about the Expos, can you believe that? But yeah, I think they had the best record in baseball at that point. It would have been interesting to see an Expos Yankees World Series.
All those great players that went elsewhere. Absolutely.
That's right. Yeah. Pedro Martinez, and I could go down the line, but yeah, you're exactly right about that. And we're talking to Randy Levine, the president of the New York Yankees. Speaking of international, if we're calling Montreal international, but it is another country, we're seeing more and more of the NFL model, so to speak, and I don't know if one can say the other started this whole trend, but the Yankees played in London a couple of years ago. I remember they played the Red Sox, a great series around July 4th, and overall it just seems like sports in general, whether we're talking about the NBA, the NFL, Major League Baseball, expanding to different parts of the world, where we're seeing more and more home run derbies that everybody loves that during the All-Star game. Hey, let's have it in different cities. World Baseball Classic, I was glued to, as far as Venezuela, of all teams, we didn't see that coming, eventually winning over the U.S. But could you see, I guess, Randy, my question is, the Major League Baseball brand being played outside of, I'm not talking about Mexico or Canada so much, but outside of North America at some point?
Yes, I could. I mean, the London games have been extraordinarily successful. Whether we went, the Red Sox, the Mets, the Phillies, the Cubs, and the Cardinals, they've been really, really successful. One of the main reasons for the World Baseball Classic is to show the world how great baseball is as a game, and it's working. There baseball leagues that are growing all over the place, all over the world, and it's very strong in North America and Asia, Korea, and Japan have great players.
Oh yeah.
You see in the Netherlands now, it's taking hold. Players in
Italians
Italy.
surprised us, didn't they?
Players in Italy. So, I think, can I see in the near future a franchise being based there? No, I can't. But can I see regular season games being played there? Absolutely.
Yeah, and it only makes sense in this world, and we're talking to Randy Levine. Aaron Judge, it seems not too long ago, but I guess it was, that he signed that 9-year, $360 million deal. That's obviously $40 million a deal. Was there any ever doubt that Judge would come back to the Yankees? You look at the Trout deal, for example. You look at other deals as far as Harper down with the Phillies and so on. But in the end, this seems to be the new thing. Longer guaranteed contracts, but you keep that franchise player there, because it's hard to see. Just like when I was growing up, it would be impossible for me to see Don Mattingly in any other uniform except for the New York Yankees during the 80s and up until his retirement after the 95 season. The same thing with Aaron Judge. Was there ever a doubt in your mind that ultimately that he wasn't going to come back?
Of course, yes. Aaron Judge is a franchise player, one of the greatest players in not only in our times but in all-time Yankees.
Yeah,
and he in a market that was willing to pay him substantial money and give him long-term years. I know he had opportunities to go anywhere.
San Francisco,
at least 2 or 3 other places that he was considering. But he wanted to be a Yankee. We're grateful that he's a Yankee. Hal Steinbrenner and he have a great relationship, and Hal Steinbrenner stepped up during that time. The two of them really negotiated that deal one-on-one. But yes, there were a lot of nervous nights that he might have gone someplace else because he had that opportunity. He earned it. He deserved it. And we're just very fortunate that he's here. And, we think we got a bargain with that contract.
From Judge to back to Jeter, just class acts, right? Never a problem off the field, and certainly somebody who represents the franchise well. Before we let you go here tonight, the Savannah Bananas are coming to town a week from this weekend, and my 10-year-old is saying, "Dad, I gotta see the Bananas." He watches every time they're on ESPN. They're on national television. They're like the Harlem Globetrotters of, in other words, of baseball, where they do tricks that I played a little bit in high school, a little bit in college. I can't get over what these guys can do on a baseball field. I looked on StubHub before I came on. The cheapest seat in Yankee Stadium, not just one, but they're playing 2 games while you guys are away, $165, and the highest seats in the stadium. Do you ever look at the Bananas and say, wow, whatever they're doing as far as marketing, especially social media, where they have a huge following, maybe we could copy, not so much that we're going to start doing tricks on the field, but just in general, how this thing has become so big that they're selling out Yankee Stadium like the Beatles sold out Shea Stadium when they came to America for the first time. It really is an incredible thing to see.
Well, they're not only selling out Yankee Stadium, they're selling out everywhere. You name it, everywhere. They've done an incredible job. It's a really fun experience to watch. Kids love it. It's they have great stuff there. They change it up. And, they've marketed it in a great way. But as you know, Joe, you can market things, but if the show isn't great, eventually people will catch on, and they keep refreshing it and making it great, and it's well worth it. It's a lot of fun.
Absolutely. Go ahead.
Kind of stuff that we at the Yankees, obviously, based on our tradition, the way we are, we don't go that way, but it's fun to have them visit and perform here at Yankee Stadium.
Yeah, they could come 20 times a year and probably sell out that thing. That's how crazy it is among at least the 10-year-olds. That's my bridge to this as far as just how they connect with young children. It really is incredible. But anyway, Randy Levine, thanks so much for joining us here tonight, and we really appreciate it. And good luck on the season. The Yankees, I can't remember almost any time in my lifetime, well, not my lifetime, but at least in the 21st century, where they don't make the playoffs. They're not playing for a World Series. And again, just a class franchise run by class people led by you, and I really appreciate it, Randy.
Always, Joe. Take care of yourself. All the best. Thank you very much.
All right, you too, sir. Take care.
It's the Joe Concha Tunnel to Towers Foundation Sunday morning show. Now, here's Joe Concha.
All right, let's wrap this puppy up. That was great with Randy Levine, wasn't it? I mean, and I'm not joking about the bananas. Go look on StubHub. Try to get tickets for the games next weekend. I mean, we're talking like $500 if you want to get in the building to see these guys. I mean, and again, the 10-year-olds particularly, I know this, having one, they are the biggest thing in sports right now, you know. I'll bring my son to a Yankee game once or twice a year, and he loves it. But the Bananas, this is a whole different level of obsession, no question about it. Anyway, let's do some lightning round, shall we? This is Bill Maher on Eric Swalwell, who had appeared on Maher's show on several occasions. Makes sense. Shows in California. Swalwell represented San Francisco. And here's Maher. You know, again, this is why I like Bill Maher. I don't agree with a lot of what he says, but I know he's honest, and I know he's transparent. And this is cut number 5 on how he really felt about Eric Swalwell. Go.
Speaking of creepy stuff, have you been following the Eric Swalwell case here in California? This is a very prominent...
I think we're all following it.
A very prominent Democrat. I got to say... We had him on a couple of times. Ask my staff. I never liked him. I don't have good gaydar, but I got creepdar. I always thought this guy was I never liked him.
Oh, boy.
And yet so many Democrats stood by him. And now that we're finding out that it was such an open secret, you know, I hear this so many times, you know, Bill Clinton. It was an open secret in Arkansas. Bill Cosby, Harvey Weinstein, you know, even Larry Craig, remember, with the Republican with the helmets. Okay, you know, like the
Minnesota Airport.
Yeah, you know the one.
Yeah.
What is going on here, where it takes so long for the open secret to, because I seem to remember that back in the old days, like when JFK was president, we heard, well, the media used to protect politicians and they knew what JFK was doing, but it was just something they didn't report on. Is it any different now? Apparently not.
Yeah, that's so true. Not just about JFK and Marilyn Monroe and all the other women that he was cheating on Jackie O with, but the fact that the guy used crutches, you know, he had some obviously serious physical ailments, and the media would not report on it because they felt that would endanger national security or something. So this has been going on for a long time. But Swalwell now out of the governor's race, out of Congress, and as far as like just being an absolute creep, you could see this coming, like with Michael Avenatti for many, many years. Yet the media, because he has a D next to his name, became a protection racket instead of the journalists that they're supposed to be. Meanwhile, I love this clip. This is RFK Jr. just completely owning this Democratic congressman who, again, these hearings are worthless. Democrats get up there and they yell at a guy like RFK Jr. so they could go viral, so they could fundraise off of it, so they could go on MS Now and CNN as heroes somehow. It's nothing to do with getting to the truth or making the country better, especially from a health perspective. But here's RFK Jr. He ain't taking it. And this is cut number 11. Go.
I say, calm down, Congressman.
Don't tell me look, healthcare is personal to my constituents like Deja and Richard.
Is over.
Do not tell me to calm down. Healthcare is real. And if you can't answer basic questions, then maybe come prepared next time.
I'm answering the question. You don't give me the chance to answer. You haven't given me a chance to answer.
Said you
didn't
answer
your question.
You weren't.
You cut me off when I started to answer.
You said you
started screaming
did not
at
consult.
me.
Okay, the time is expired. We're going to move on, Mr.
People
Yacob.
scream when they don't have much to say.
People scream when they don't have much to say. Exactly. It's all performance, cheesy performance art. Before we go, here's President Trump on a psychedelic drug that lowers depression, and Trump is wondering, hey, how do I get some of that? Cut number 7, go.
Ibogaine, because it's so important, and experienced an 80 to 90% reduction in symptoms of depression and anxiety within 1 month. Can I have some, please? I'll take some. I'll take whatever it takes.
And at the end, he says, you know what, I work, and that's what keeps me from being depressed. I feel the same way, actually. Anyway, thanks for tuning in. We're back tomorrow night on WABC at 9 p.m. Eastern Time and on stations around the country. Until then, I got 2 words for you. Bye-bye.
It's the Joe Concha Tunnel to Towers Foundation Sunday Morning Show.